Hi there, this is David Kenny. Welcome to Light from Above. We're broadcasting here from Olive Branch, Mississippi. We had the opportunity to come down to Memphis to attend the Memphis School Preaching and Lectureship, and Olive Branch is just down the road. So we had the opportunity to stop in and see their new facility. And I have with us Mark Teske, who's the Director of Operations for Gospel Broadcasting Network. Mark, thanks for joining the program today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, David. We enjoy having Light from Above on the network, and it's a pleasure to have you here in the studio with us.
Well, I don't get down to this area of the country that often, maybe once a year. So I've been reading about all the transition, the building, everything you've been going through. People from Wadsworth would be familiar with that because they've had to go through a similar kind of facility at WCTV, facility change, where they actually had to move out of the high school, move into the City Hall basement, and then move back to the new facility. But you guys have been going through a far more substantial change than just moving into a new facility. And you guys had to move from, it's Georgia, is that correct?
Yeah, we were located in Ringgold, Georgia, had a leased facility there, and made the transition here to Olive Branch, Mississippi. A couple hundred miles away, which facilitated a few things, one of which was some of our staff who had family and spouses and things like that stayed back in the Ringgold area and did not make the transition with us. So we had some new staff, we had a new building, some construction to do here in this facility, and relocation. Part of the challenge with that, we moved from about 38,000 square feet down to 10,000 square feet. So there was a lot of things that we had to get rid of in the process. So it was a pretty challenging transition for us.
Now you mentioned you had a lot of people that you had to move. With WCTV, it was really just, they had to downsize the square footage as well, I believe, because I actually did some broadcasting at their studio in the high school and then in the basement, and then they're in the new facility now, and it's ironic, it seems, because your construction and transition really mirrors what they're going through as well as far as the time scale. And so, but they really didn't have to move themselves, their homes and their families, and it had to make personnel changes. So really, GBN is almost really a complete new type of operation based on a solid foundation from Georgia. Would that be a pretty accurate statement?
A very accurate statement. As we made the transition on the technical side of the operations, we made some changes in the way we do things that happened as we moved. It's a good time to relook at the way you do everything in an organization. And we went from a video network-based system to a computer network-based system. Back when GBN was originally built in the Ringgold area, computer-based workflows for video production really weren't that widespread. It was really cutting edge at the time, which is code word for very expensive. And in the past 6 years, the price has come down pretty significantly. And we are able to build in some efficiencies with the new type of network that we have here, as opposed to the old video-based network. And even the lights that we're sitting under. This is a totally new type of lighting system, LED lights, which were just dreamed of 6 years ago. As we moved into the new facility, we found that the old incandescent lamps that we had prior required so much electricity that the infrastructure here could not handle the type of power that was needed, a three-phase power at significant amperage. And as a result, we were looking at a huge outlay of money just to upgrade the infrastructure. For less money than that, we could go with state-of-the-art LED lighting, get a better lighting look, lower operating costs for us, and in essence, lower installation costs to get us going with it. So it was a way to upgrade the lighting at the same time. So there's a lot of benefits that did come along with the move and looking at the way we do things totally fresh.
Now the building here was a rehab, basically. Now it used to be, if I recall, it used to be a bank, and you did some augmentation to it a little bit, but it was largely what you wanted, wasn't it? I mean, really, if you, in a large sense, it had some things in it that you had to make some sacrifices, but you picked up some things, I believe.
Absolutely. The building actually served, had 4 different offices in it, one of which was a cosmetics distribution group that painted the whole area a bright pink. That was ceilings and everything. Nearly gave you a headache just walking in there. So we had some cosmetic things to do, change out the carpeting, things like that. But the layout really was very conducive to us in many ways. The studio that we're in right now, the room that was attached onto the back of the building was just a small sunroom of about 300 square feet. And we ended up having to demolish most of that room and added the 1,500 square foot studio on the back here. Raise the ceiling up and make it a little bit more square footage to be able to give us the room to do what we need to do. And in doing that, the city had some requirements regarding the aesthetics of the outside. So it turned into a little bit bigger project than we originally anticipated, but the results have been fantastic. This week we had the grand opening, and everybody who walked through was impressed at the way the building looks. Functionally, it works great for us. One of the things with video production, for instance, our edit suites, those are all on the inside of the building. We have four of those that were built into the building, rooms that are very conducive for that. All without windows. You want that to be in a darkened room, kind of away from everything else. It works great for it. And offices right outside of those. So operationally works very, very well for us. We still have some room for expansion within the building. There's a whole wing on the second floor that we're not using, and the ability to build out on the third floor as well. So we have room for expansion. So we've really downsized in many ways as we came here. But it's all been for the better. Tickled when I pay the electric bill. The electric bill is just a fraction of what it was before in the old facility.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the LED lighting. When I was at a company I worked at before, one of the proposals we studied was the benefit of LED lighting in the stores and how much it saved in energy and things like that. But also, it's not as hot. You know, when you're sitting here, I'm like thinking, I'm going to start sweating here anytime, but it's not. It's not a real strong heat, which is nice as well. So it's very impressive.
Yeah, interestingly enough, as we looked at putting the LED lighting in the studio, with the air conditioning, we could downsize the units. You know, the old incandescent lights, we'd have many of those lights on, and they typically ran 750 to 1,000 watts would be typical. And you may have 7 or 8 of those on. So you can think of those as 750 to 1,000 watt heaters. The amount of heat they put out is very significant. And to be able to handle that, the air conditioners would have had to have been upgraded. But by going with LED lights, we could go with the smaller air conditioning systems, smaller initial cost and smaller operating cost as we use those.
Well, this is even with all the savings and everything that, because I know your budget's very tight, but I wanted you to bring out, you know, this isn't a cheap, inexpensive process. There's a lot of money that has to be involved in this kind of thing, and I really think it's very, very commendable. You know, in this day and age, you know, when you watch other religious programs on other stations, they're always asking for money, or they're always having fund drives like NPR or any public broadcasting. They're generally always looking for money and things like that. And some people, you know, they're generous and all that, and I understand that. But I think from GBN's long-standing history has been very impressive, and a lot of our viewers on the program wouldn't know necessarily, you know, how does GBN do all this financially? How do they get their funds? How do they do that?
That's a fantastic question, because we never and will never ask for donations from our viewers. We view the work of GBN as being an evangelistic outreach of the Lord's Church. And as such, we don't ask viewers. They're really our consumers, and we look at them exclusively as that. We're trying to produce material for their benefit. And by asking them for money, kind of defeats the evangelistic mission of the church. Our funding comes completely from Christians and from congregations. They've blessed us very significantly. The building that we're sitting in now, we began the fundraising campaign last year. We're able to raise funds to purchase the building. The mortgage is paid off. The construction has been paid. And we own the building outright because of the generous nature of members of the Lord's Church. And with the network, we never run ads, never have, never will. Again, the funding comes completely from generous members and congregations of the church.
So, and this is sort of, when you're saying that, is I was sort of laughing to myself, because in one of the lessons I gave, I was talking about how deplorable some of the ads are on television. I mean, I made this point on the show. I was talking about, they're advertising diseases or situations that people have on regular TV that I didn't even know existed until I was in high school. And I didn't learn it from the coach. I learned it from, where you learn those kinds of things. And
In the locker room.
Right. And I'm like, why are we advertising this the way we're doing? But GBN has basically no commercials.
Totally no commercials.
So if a parent was watching the show or watching the network and they had their small children there, they wouldn't have to walk away and wonder, is my kid going to ask me what's this condition for over 12 hours I need to go to the ER for, or things like that. They don't have to worry about that. It's all Christian broadcasting, no solicitation, none of these. A lot of free websites they have their advertising, and you don't have any control over that on some of those things, but you don't have that problem with GBN.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that a lot of times as we enter into a cable system for the first time, the first thing that we hear from viewers is, you all don't ask for money. And we may get some phone calls from people who view and say, that's so refreshing to watch religious programming that nobody's asking for money. And that's been very eye-opening for some. The other thing that we do is we offer our materials. If you watch a program on the network and you're interested in studying more about it, we have correspondence courses, we have DVDs. We offer those to our viewers free of charge. And a lot of people think, okay, well, now that they've given me something free, now they'll start asking me for money.
Yeah.
Never have, never will. And people, they may ask for a DVD of Light from Above, and we'll send them a DVD, and they'll never hear from us asking for money.
That's really great, because I can't tell you how many times I have people come to my door and they'll say, for a few pennies, I'll give you this book. And I'm like, okay, here's 2 cents. Well, can't you just give me, 2 cents? It's worth more than that, isn't it? And I'm like, you get sort of tired of that. And I'm like, was it free or not? And what's the deal? And if you can't trust people on those kinds of things, and there is nothing more important in trust than the relationship man has with God and man has with other man in that regards. And when you do these kinds of things, it just really speaks a lot when you could tell they may not be completely interested in money, but they're definitely interested in money. So I think that's a very unique and very complimentary, very high regard that GBN does not ask for money. So if they're not in it for the money, why does GBN do what it does? What motivates? It's a nonprofit. It's a religious institution. I forget the exact title.
501c3.
That's the one. I know it when I hear it. It's 501c. So, obviously you have salary, you have overhead and things like that. But what is the driving force for something like Gospel Broadcasting Network? Why do we do what we're trying to do? Why do we do that?
There's really a three-pronged reason for doing what it is that we do. The first one would be what we would call evangelism. Those who are listening, who are outside of Christ, letting them know the saving message of the gospel. That's a very important part and the primary purpose of the network. But in addition to that, there's also building up of those who are already Christians, trying to give them good material to help them be built up in the faith. And the third triad of that would be education. Continuing to let people know the message of the Bible and get into some of the deeper messages that are found therein. And upon those three, all the programming that we have at the network hangs.
Now, some of the recording crew, they don't want to come onto the screen. I guess maybe it's my tie that's intimidating them or something. I'm not sure what it is. But give us an overview of your staff here, the people that, some of the people that are not exactly behind the scenes, but other people. There's a lot of people involved in the program. Why don't you give them a little bit of insight of, maybe not their names if they don't want to know their names, but what kind of staff does it take to operate a facility like this?
The staff that we have, because we are a very small organization, here on location we have 7 full-time employees. We do have volunteers that come in and help us out, and we couldn't do everything that we do without those volunteers. But of the staff, everybody has to wear multiple hats. And for instance, when it comes to being a janitor, we don't have a full-time janitor. We don't have a part-time janitor. That our accountant tends to be the one who takes the trash out to the street on Wednesday mornings. Everybody here, we have one of our gentlemen who's working a camera right now. He hosts one of our programs. He does editing. He does closed captioning. He runs up the ladders and adjusts the lights. He runs cameras for things such as this. He's in learning how to direct programs. He's actually been known to push a broom and scrub a toilet. So everybody's very multifaceted. Our accountant can actually run a camera. So we have quite a bit of cross-training that happens here by nature of being a small organization. We have one person on staff who does a lot of the interaction with people who call in. Correspondence courses, DVDs, CD requests, getting the volunteers in here, showing the volunteers what needs to be done, working hand in hand with them. Our receptionist, who also serves as secretary here, she answers the phones and occasionally has to do counseling. People call in a crisis. Many of our staff members actually do counseling over the phone with people who call in. So it really is a very diverse group of people that work here. But try as we can to get people who, they're all Christians themselves, and as much training as we can get them in spiritual matters, we like to have that. The two ladies who work on staff with us, both of them have had experience going through courses in schools of preaching. Not to become preachers themselves, but to gain the Bible knowledge. And
Sure.
It's been very, very helpful to have everybody on staff kind of rowing in exactly the same direction. It's almost as if the staff here was all hand-picked.
Yeah, staff's really important. The staff that I work with back in Wadsworth, it's a great team. It's 3 people. I don't think I'll don't mention their names exactly, but one of them was very instrumental to help me. I mean, as good as I am, which is not very good, but I just started. I just started the program. It was one program name, then we changed it over. And this person basically held my hand all the way through. And one of the things that really intrigues me about your facility here, the things I read, is you actually have a training center, and then you have a school of preaching that's, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, depending on the traffic lights, if that. You can bring these students down, and you can actually train them to put together their own program. So wherever they go, I mean, that's a huge benefit, because I don't know how many cities in our nation has a public access studio operation like Wadsworth has. They actually have 3 public access channels, and I can actually tap into 3 if I was so long-winded, because one of them is for hour-long programs. I'm like, no, that's enough. That's enough of that. So, but it's really great. Wadsworth's one of those communities where the centerpiece, a lot of it is their public access television. They have high school students on there, elementary students on there. They have football games on there. I mean, they really have done a great job. So when I walked in there, they said, yeah, we'll help you do a show. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds great. And I'm like, right. So to have a training facility here, I mean, that's got to be huge when they leave and graduate and go out. And that helps you, GBN, in the future, doesn't it?
Oh, it helps us in several ways. And part of our strategy is to work with as many training schools as we possibly can, universities and schools of preaching all over the country. Again, teaching men what they can do through the technology of video. Some folks are in blessed situations like you are with WCTV, where those facilities are there, the resources are there, and it's fantastic to be able to take advantage of that. Others, they may just have a webcam and YouTube, but there's a lot that can be done even there. So oftentimes, as I go different places and meet people, one of the questions I get asked, okay, I'd like to do some video. Where do I start?
Right.
And the idea is to take all these young men as they're in school, as they're learning, and give them some knowledge and plant the seeds and watch them grow. One of the things I didn't mention is, as we talked about the facility here, there's no way in this 1,500 square foot studio that we could possibly record enough material for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Sure.
We don't intend to do so. You know, it's the places like Wadsworth. It may just be, you know, a half hour of new programming a week. That's 1/2 hour checked off.
Right.
We have other studios that we work with. We have one in Pulaski, Tennessee, that does about 8 programs a week for us, coming out of that studio. We've got one over in Chattanooga that does a couple of programs a week for us. And we're trying to develop more studios around the country. You know, there's one down in Texas, one over in Oklahoma, and I could go on telling you about all the different studios and programs we have all over the country that produce programming. And again, the way we've tried to work things here is people who have the facilities, like there in Wadsworth, most of the editing is done. There's just a few things that we do on some of the older programs to keep the name consistent. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I will. The original name of your program, Bible Talk, great name. But as we started talking about bringing the program on, Bible Talk is actually a name that's been used by another program over the years that's run on the network. And they kind of have squatters' rights to it, as far as we're concerned. And Light from Above and some of the new branding that we put for your program, which looks absolutely fantastic. Very pleased to you know, that your willingness to change the name and give a very appropriate name, nice graphics to go along with it, and it's really been a good addition to the lineup here.
Well, we're very excited. The church is very excited in Wadsworth. The city, they actually had a write-up in the local paper talking about it. WCTV has been broadcasting, making programs for 30 years. They're just celebrating their 30th year anniversary. And to be able, you know, this is the first program to be, I guess the term would be syndicated, to be added to a network outside of theirs. So that's a big deal. I mean, these professionals at WCTV, they're great. And they do a lot of work, and then so this is recognition for them and the work that they do as well. And they're a great group of people, and I enjoy working with them, and we enjoy working with the team here at GBN as well. Tell me, how can someone, one of the goals I have for this particular show and other shows is how can people see GBN in Northeast Ohio or all through Ohio? Because you're predominantly on the cables, you're predominantly strong in the South right now, and I know you're working to change that or to improve that. How can someone in Ohio watch this program, and that way our viewers can actually tell them, other people, about the program?
Oh, absolutely. We have various ways to get the program. Probably the most straightforward that people understand is through the website, gbntv.org. We have our live stream. What's showing on the cable network is broadcast there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also have an app for the iPhone, for the iPad, and for the Android devices that people can go to the appropriate app stores and purchase those for free. You go to the store, but you don't have to pay for it. Kind of another one of those things we don't want to charge anybody. And those have already been downloaded in over 50 countries. We do have viewers coming from all over the world. There's another way that people who really like to watch GBN there's a device called a Roku box, which is a box not much bigger than this that basically hooks your television to the internet. And we have a channel on that device, and many of them are in high definition. You can also get other channels with the device as well. But we've had great success with people watching that way. Their box is about $50. There's no subscription fee or anything like that. And somebody can pick one of those up and watch GBN 24/7 right there from their home.
And that's how I watch it. I actually have a Roku box that somebody gave me, and I actually watch it there, and I could watch it on my laptop. My son could watch it on the iPad. He got an iPad through his school, won it, and so he's real excited about it. Well, Mark, thanks so much for showing me around. It's great to be down here in Olive Branch, Mississippi. I've always heard about the town and the church and the work here, and very excited about GBN and the work that you're doing. And thanks a lot for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming down. Look forward to working with you more in the future on this program and some other projects as well.
Great, thanks. Before we close our program today, we'd like to take a moment and review this roadmap to heaven with you since the matter is so serious. There are many incorrect set of directions out there, and sadly, so many people are following them. For example, some people have been given wrong turns. They believe things such as faith only, works only, or grace only. Or some attempt to change the order of the turns, being baptized before they even believe. Some people fail to realize what point they are on the map. Don't even open their Bibles yet, and they think they're saved already. As a person travels in a car or takes a hike, it has to follow the proper directions, so we must follow the proper directions to heaven. Let's take a look at the directions on our roadmap to heaven here. You have to look at these passages in your Bible for yourself. We'll just list the steps, the turns on the way. First is to believe or to have faith. And then number 2, to repent, to turn away from sin. Number 3 is to confess that Jesus is the Son of God. Number 4 is immersion, or to be baptized, which is a burial in water to have your sins washed away. And then you're added to the church by the Lord, not by a group of people, or not by giving some kind of testimonial experience or things like that. And then once you're added, you need to serve and worship the Lord faithfully all the days of your life. And the key word's faithfully. You don't waver. And that's very important. We need to keep in mind, too, that in Noah's day, there was a big flood, and only people in the ark were saved from the flood. The same is true today. There is no salvation outside the Lord's church. Where are you on the roadmap to heaven? Thanks for watching our program. Please let us know if we can assist you with further information for your journey.
In this world we have our troubles. Satan scarcely must be there.